a bra and panties match. The match named because it takes place between any amount of female competitors, with the winner being the first to strip down her opponent to nothing but her bra and panties. Ladies, gentlemen, my non-binary friends, it is I, Josh Robertson, here for Love Wrestling, and today, believe it or not, we are looking at the legacy of the WWE Bra and Panties match. I know you're probably wondering, Josh, how is there a legacy of bra and panties matches? Now hear me out. I understand that we live in a time right now where women are way better treated than they were in the early 2000s in professional wrestling, and rightfully so. However, that doesn't mean that we need to ignore the past. We need to acknowledge the past to see the future, to see where we are currently. There is a legacy, and there is some good, believe it or not, in what the bra and panties match era of the WWE Women's Division really did for the women of today. On October 23, 2000, WWE officially introduced the bra and panties match when Lita defeated Trish Stratus to retain the WWE Women's Championship. Now, while WCW did have a very similar match with the ROTC, Rip Off the Clothes match, that took place earlier in 2000 at New Blood Rising between Major Guns and Miss Hancock, the WWE's version was the same, but slightly different. Now, WWE would go to have 65 WWE bra and panties matches in its history. Now, while it started in 2000, the very last televised WWE bra and panties match was Tori Wilson and Melina at the 2005 Great American Bash, with Candice Michelle as the special referee. As stated at the top of the show, the idea of this match was 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 women in the ring at the same time, with the idea that the first one that gets their clothes ripped off, exposing their bra and panties, is the loser. There's been many versions of what that match could be. We had the tuxedo match, we had the evening gown match, as I mentioned before, the WCW ROTC Rip Off the Clothes match. But the WWE bra and panties was a staple. It appeared in video games, it appeared in pay-per-views, it did many things in its time throughout the 5 years that it was actively on television. There was bra and panty matches at live events. It was a different time in the WWE for women. It was, of course, the eye candy era, where women were trying to break through that ceiling of we want to wrestle, but also we know why we're here. We're targeted to the 18 to 34-year-old demo of predominantly males watching this television show. There was an idea of why these women were getting signed. However, the reason I want to highlight the bra and panties match, the reason I'm talking about this today here on Love Wrestling, is to show, hey, wait a minute, go in, take a little deep dive, take away all of the boobs and butts of this thing, and actually take a deep dive into what was on offer. Now, Trish Stratus has said in many different interviews throughout her time with WWE and many different documentaries that she's had on the quote-unquote women's evolution, she said, hey, you might be here because I'm not wearing a lot of clothing, you might be here for the bra and panties match, you might be here for the pudding match, but I'm gonna keep you here for the wrestling. You might have got here for other reasons, but I'm gonna draw you in and keep you here for the wrestling. The bra and panties match was looked at as a time in WWE for women that was degrading, that was sexist, that was downright awful. I'm not gonna argue too many of those points. It was a very different time in wrestling, it served its purpose, but it certainly wasn't a time that we can look back on and go, damn, there were some real classics in the bra and panties era of WWE. When we look at the history of the bra and panties match, there's actually been many different times where the same people have wrestled in slightly different variations of the match. Trish Stratus has wrestled in 15 televised and non-televised bra and panties or bra and panty variation matches, including a bra and panties mud match with Stacy Keibler in 2002 on an episode of Raw, a bra and panties paddle on a pole match on the April 7th edition 2002 of Monday Night Raw, both with Stacy Keibler. Trish Stratus is known as the kind of poster child of the ruthless aggression era of WWE. of the women, at least in WWE at that time. Now, we know that Trish became a wonderful competitor and one of the greatest WWE Women's Champions of all time by the time she retired in 2006. But when you look back at her career, she was in them nearly more than anyone else. Stacy Keibler wrestled in a bunch of these. Tori Wilson over on the Blue brand also did a bunch of these in early 2000s and into the mid 2000s. Lita was again, one of the most renowned women's superstars in the history of professional wrestling, wrestled in a bunch of these matches. Now, when I talk about these matches, you're like, Trish Stratus and Stacy Keibler in a paddle on a pole bra and panties match. Why would I want to watch that other than eye candy? However, there was, again, a time of improvement, a time of looking at these matches of like, okay, we're going to pop a rating here. We understand what the kind of cause is. We understand why we're here. We understand that we're just eye candy, but we're going to do stuff that maybe we're going to get a little bit of a slap on the wrist for. In an interview with WWE in 2015, a part of the WWE Network special, Trish Stratus said that she would go to the arena early as a part to many WWE women at the time. They would be rocking up early to the arena to get their training in because they knew they were under way more of a microscope to try things out and way more of a microscope to actually wrestle when they're given paddle on a pole bra and panties matches or bra and panties mud matches. They were given these awful, terrible ideas, and they were given the kind of chance to, not even given the chance, they took the chance to just go, hey, we're going to wrestle in a bra and panties mud match, we're going to do some things that you're going to remember, I'm going to perfect these moves, I'm going to get better, we're going to slowly gain more trust with the company, we're going to slowly gain more time with the company, so then we can get out of this bra and panties era. Now, there's been a lot of women in the WWE's past that were actually a big proponent of these matches because you got to remember, a lot of these women that were brought in because they were models, because they look good. They were learning on the fly, which is not ideal. And while 98% of these women always wanted to try hard and get way better, you cannot do that on television every single week. So, a big opportunity for them to try and get over in the sense of, hey, I'm going to try and get some amount of appreciation here from these fans, was a bra and panties match. I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds like I'm defending a pretty rotten time in WWE when it comes to the mistreatment of women, but the bra and panties match was perfect for people like Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson, who were hired purely because they look fantastic, and they're damn great at looking fantastic. I'm not taking that away from them at all. I'm not trying to, just take the punch here and be like, but wait, this was really great. No, it was terrible. But the legacy here that I'm trying to create is that because we had all of these bra and panty matches, because we had all of these times where we were just like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening, we got to remember, we've come a long way with women in professional wrestling, and it's because of women like this who had to endure all of these awful things and try their hardest to go, okay, we had this bra and panties match and you got to see all of the stuff that you wanted to see, but hey, did you see me perfect that arm drag? Did you see me perfect this? Did you see me actually strike instead of slap? Because women apparently weren't allowed to punch in wrestling in this time because apparently, quote unquote, girls don't do that. But these are women and they're doing that, so I don't understand how that can be even an argument in that time. However, I digress. What I'm trying to say is that the legacy really of the bra and panties match is to recognize where we come from, to recognize that we are in a great spot with women in professional wrestling. There's been a lot of talk lately about women being mistreated again, and a prime example was when Raw 30 happened and women weren't really honored. Now, did that annoy me as someone who loves women's wrestling as much as I do? Damn straight, but it also made me go, hey, wait a minute. We were progressing other things. Things ran over, whatever happened, but we're still getting top tier stories from without championships. I think that's a good one to note. We're still getting top tier stories of like, hey, we're in the verge of another WrestleMania where women are probably going to go and last on one of the nights. We're in this really cool spot. We just had women absolutely kill it in a Royal Rumble match, something in 2002 when Trish Stratus and Stacy Keibler were wrestling in a bra and panties mud match that they would never envision that they were going to get the idea from. The idea to even have an opportunity to get in the WWE Royal Rumble match, to have a WrestleMania main event, to have a main event of any show in that time was really, really rare. We know that women main evented in 2004 and didn't main event again until 2015. That is a long time to wait. We gotta recognize that, hey, these women put in the hard yards by having evening gown matches, by having rip off the clothes matches by having bra and panties matches. These women paved the way for where we are today, and it's time we appreciate it even more. You may have noticed something interesting about this episode. There was footage here of these women in action in WWE games. Going forward in Season 4, which is coming back in April of 2023, stay tuned to my socials and Love Wrestling socials for all the info of who we're getting of, legacy ofs, and what exactly it entails and what's different and all of that kind of stuff. But going forward, you're going to see a lot more of this stuff, and I think it's time to change it up a little bit here, guys. Get you some footage to actually live through. Obviously, through the copyright laws, I can't give you actual footage of stuff, but I can record stuff in games, guys, and I can give you the best kind of visual experience to aid the lovely sound of my voice. Debatable, I guess. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for this season of the Legacy of. I hope you've enjoyed all 8 episodes. Tell me which was your favorite. Tell me who you want to see in Season 4, which again is coming back in April of 2023. Make sure to follow me on socials at JoshRobinson_00, pretty much across the board. Make sure to follow at Love Wrestling, at Love Wrestling CA, pretty much across the board. Thank you for all the love, support, and everything with this season of the Legacy of. You've made this the most viewed and talked about season of this show since I started it back in whenever I did, and you've made it as amazing as it is. So thank you so much for all your support, all your love. You'll never hear me not thank you for that and show my gratitude, because I truly am blessed to have this show. It's a lot of fun. But until April of 2023, I'm signing off for Love Wrestling, guys. Goodbye.